Welcome to Things Go Sideways. This is a space for honest stories about moments when life doesn't just get hard, it falls apart in ways that we just absolutely cannot ignore. When the body starts telling the truth before the mind is ready, and when the path you've worked on and worked toward stops being viable, well, you might just be having a sideways moment in your life. These aren't stories about healing as a highlight reel. They're stories about reckoning. They're stories about what happens when something inside you says, this isn't working anymore. So today I am joined by my friend, Mark Wallach. Mark, you are a tech entrepreneur, you're a connector, you're someone long known for being adaptable, creative, friendly, collaborative. These are all words that people use to describe you. You are also living with ALS. So, Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you. You've been very supportive of me throughout my time in the association space, and I'm really glad about this next step of when things go sideways, and maybe that getting things straight isn't always the best thing for us. So I'm very excited about this new venture.
Thank you. Me too. For many people who may be coming to this podcast and they are not familiar with you already, and they're meeting you for the first time, who are you beyond ALS? Who is Mark? What do you want people to know about you first?
I think the mission statement that we've established for the company applies for myself as well. And really we're operating under that. And the mission statement is this: it's to be known, liked, and trusted, have conversations that lead to relationships. From those relationships, we'll identify mutual needs. And if we can fill them, we fill them. And if we can't, we find out who can. So if people want to know what we do, I'm happy to tell them. But why we do it is it's our goal to earn the right to be the first call, and then be someone that really facilitates a change for people. And that's not just on a business level, that's on a personal level. If you're going to Boston, I can tell you the best dim sum in Chinatown. If you're in DC, I could probably find the best dry cleaner. And I could also tell you how to increase your non-dues revenue if you need to, as well as an association.
I love that. You're a fountain of knowledge. You are someone who, if you don't have the answer, you know somebody who does. And you've always been resourceful that way. And I think that it's been really interesting to talk with you about how you've recognized those strengths and been able to incorporate those into the business and like what you do as a business. I want to talk to you a little bit about what happens to these traits, these things that you're known for when they get put under the pressure of the limitations and the barriers that you face, the challenges that you face with something like ALS, because it's really hard to be cheery, good-natured, I'll help you out, Mark, when all of a sudden you're having to figure out how to do things differently. And even after you find a new way to do it, you find the plan B, you discover one day you need a plan C and a plan D and all of these types of things. So let's talk about that, because that has to be difficult, even if you're good at it.
You're right. First of all, I think the disease should not be called ALS. It should be called CSA, constant state of adaptation.
Yeah.
Let me break down the different parts of what you asked me there. I have a very public persona and a private persona. And the private persona probably isn't as nice as it should be. Probably could develop some emotional maturity and be more respectful of those around me. But the public persona is always outgoing and showing the best. And I think that's where some recent stuff that I've written about vulnerability being strength, I need to be willing to be more vulnerable, and I'll gain strength from that vulnerability and expose it. I had a good experience with that recently, posting about the new software I'm using. If you're seeing me as a big head, is because I've got this new computer on the front of my chair. It's a Tobii Dynavox, and I'm learning how to drive my chair and operate the computer with my eyes. Unfortunately, though, I'm not skilled at it yet. And for those of you that were not here prior to the podcast, my wife, with all of my stress impacting upon her, had to get me set up because I couldn't do things. And that's where I really need to learn to be more patient and more giving and kinder through this process. I keep coming to the realization that I'm not going to get better. And that's kind of hard to deal with and sometimes a grieving process. And the grieving is quite constant. I grieved the loss of my right arm, and then I grieved the loss of my left arm, and now I'm grieving the loss of my legs and my finger. And so the grieving just doesn't end. And so how do you get through that? And where do you find some positives? And a quote I came up with recently is that I'm going to go into 2026 using optimism through adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And as I adapt, I'll be more optimistic. This Tobii Dynavox, in the first time I've been excited about a piece of assistive technology, because every other piece of assistive technology said to me personally, the disease is winning.
Oh.
And means that I'm giving up something else to the disease. It's taking another piece. I feel like Ukraine almost, another piece of land was taken away and they're not going to give it back. But this Dynavox, in just a few days, I can drive a little bit. I can use the computer with my eyes a little bit. And then through my vulnerability of posting about it, I've had the most reach of any post I've ever done. On LinkedIn, I've got over 300 people, half of which are not even on my connection. I've got like 10 reposts, all of which are not my connections. And I've been reached out to by a company in Germany that's looking for an ambassador for a new technology regarding using your eyes in conjunction with the Dynavox, sending me some technology, and we're going to test that out. I'd like to not mention it until I know that it's something I want to put my name on. But I wrote an article not too long ago about how we gain strength through our vulnerability. And this is, it's really easy to tell everybody how to do things, but to live it is kind of hard. And to walk the walk's a little hard. And so I'm real good at coming up with these creative ideas and talking about vulnerability as your strength. But then when I did that, all of this opportunity opened up for me. And it's not just financial opportunity, it's mental opportunity, it's social opportunity, it's self-esteem opportunity. So it's hard to feel safe in your own skin, but it's maybe you need to start trusting being in your own skin, that you can come out with other opportunities or changes in your life.
So that's really interesting that you say that, because I think that from talking with a number of people who have faced all kinds of different, there are lots of sideways stories that I've been collecting already. And one of the common themes seems to be at some point, a person realizes that even if they haven't gone down a path before and things are shaky and they're uncertain of what the future holds, they at some point trust themselves enough to take a step in that direction and to say, yeah, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I trust myself enough to go in this new direction. And a lot of times that can be quite a barrier for people who don't feel confident enough because they've never had to figure out a new path, how things are going to shake out. Do you think that you are better today at that than you were before ALS or before CSA, the constant state of adaptation, your new name for this disease? Have you improved, or do you think that it's still like, I don't know, I'm still learning? Where are you in that?
I think I'm still learning, and I think it's different. The disease did bring out some behaviors that have benefited me that I took for granted before. And so I really didn't exploit them. And I think I've actually used that phrase previously with you. Exploit is not a bad word. It means used to the fullest. But I also know that the disease has me questioning my abilities when I buy into it. I also have a tendency to be a little bit in denial and think I can still do everything I can do. And so at those moments, I'm very, very confident. But if you don't mind, I'd like to go into a couple of the things that the disease taught me that I really think everyday people could use.
I would love that.
Okay, so I was diagnosed in April of 2021. I worked full-time until August of 2023, and then I decided to take a break. I was working for a company and I had the most successful year ever that year, 2 years into my disease. And then I took a break to consult and write. And after watching too much TV and finding myself attracted to Judge Judy, I decided it was time to get back to work. I like strong women, KiKi, like you. So, but what the disease taught me in that working process, the first couple of years, as I was deteriorating, was that I have limited bandwidth. And then I extended that not just to me because of the disease, because before the disease, I had limited bandwidth. So what was I filling my bandwidth with? And I started learning that certain things were not important and did not help me reach my objectives or my goals or my intentions. I don't care what you call them. But if I started eliminating some of those things, and this is real easy to do when you have a terminal disease, I adopted this. What's the worst thing that could happen? What are they going to do? Kill me? So
Good point.
what if I gave up doing this and just focused on that? What if I just did what I'm capable of doing and know that I'm good at doing or what I want to do and decided I'm not going to do some of that other stuff? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Mm-hmm.
And that focus is why my success really grew. That focus has allowed me to start a company with a new product as well as providing services. That focus has allowed me to keep going every day while I'm a quadriplegic now. I don't spend the day in bed because I don't want to spend the day in bed. Worse yet, I kind of like spending the day in bed too much. It's kind of like when the doctor asks you if you want medicine for the pain. I say no because I like it,
Right. Yeah.
I want to feel some of the pain, but I know that if I get out of bed, I'll focus on doing other things. And then when we add tools like this new tool or the company that I'm going to be looking at their products, that I'm doing my Zoom meeting from my wheelchair on a device attached to my wheelchair. And it takes me longer to get things done than others. So I might as well get rid of a lot of things that really aren't that important so I can do those things that are.
Yeah. I know that as we're talking, we're getting ready to go into a new year. This is going to come out at the end of January. So by the time this comes out, people will have probably already made their New Year's resolutions on what they want to add or what they want to get rid of. But I think that no matter when somebody's listening to this or watching it or whatever, that this idea of streamlining your life and really looking at and evaluating what are your priorities, what's most important, what is unimportant that just doesn't need to be there, so that you can make the most important things easier to get to. I think that's helpful for everyone to think about. I'd be curious to know, because I bet you've gotten pretty good at figuring out, all right, this is an unnecessary thing. It's just in the way. I just want to get right to the most important part. So talk to me about that. What does that look like for you?
For me, anything that requires admin, I don't do anymore.
Yeah.
It takes me 2 hours to do a 5-minute PowerPoint. somebody else is going to do it. I don't care if it's my adult daughter with a master's who comes over once a week to catch up on some things for me, or a high school student that needs a couple hours. I know that if I produce one opportunity in those 2 hours, I will pay for senior class to work for me an hour a week. So I don't do any admin. And it's gotten easier because of AI. I got to tell you, if there's the time to become quadriplegic, this is the time, because the technology, even in 2020, the technology allowed me to continue working. But now with AI, it's just opened up my life tremendously. I'm able to automate more things.
Yeah.
And I'm able to have research that would take me forever before, and manually doing long keyword chats in the old Google and assembling all of that and bringing it all together was physically exhausting when you have limited bandwidth like me. So if you're an individual that's able to walk, able to type, find out what it is that could be done quickly for you, and to use your skills, whether it's editing skills, whether it's idea formation, whether it's leadership. I've been doing a lot of work in that area now, and because of these tools, I'm writing like I never wrote before.
I love that. And it's very beneficial because I think that that's the part that is not something that can be replaced. Your unique spin on things and your take. I know that you have been, for people who don't know Mark, don't have the good fortune of knowing Mark, you will send to your friends messages, ideas you want to bounce off of us. What's your take on this? What's your take on that? And I love that your mind is constantly working. And I know that we didn't text as much as we do now. And I really look forward to when I get stuff from you. Like, I think that you're teaching me how to collaborate with others better from the sheer fact that you're connecting on a regular basis the way that you are, whether it's an idea or just checking in or just bringing people together. And from my standpoint, that's something, as someone who's known you for a while, that I can say from my perspective, I've seen that change. As far as how I've observed my engagement with you, you've taught me how to become a better collaborator through what I've seen you do and the way that you reach out to others and bring others together as you're thinking, oh, you'd be perfect to connect with that person. I know that you were always good at that, but it seems like you've gotten better. Is that true? Or is that just biased from my perspective?
I think it is true. I think it's been a couple mind shifts. One is, I always thought I was a salesperson that fell into sales, and it had a stigma to it.
Yeah.
And over time, I realized that really I'm a person that brings solutions together. And solutions could be relationships, it could be sales, it could be ideas, whatever. So as I started no longer attaching a stigma to what I did, I started embracing it more. As a matter of fact, I have a phrase that I ask everybody professionally that I work with. And the phrase is this, is if I'm listening to two people talk, what would I need to hear them say that made me immediately think they need to meet you?
Yeah.
And that...
You said that to me before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the thing you never noticed until you notice, and then it's everywhere? It can be anything, but people wearing a certain shirt. Right. And now it's everywhere. It's because it never really hit your consciousness, but the moment it hit your conscious or even your subconscious, and by the way, I don't have scientific fact to back this up yet. The moment you're aware of it, you're now aware of it. So when it happens, it happens. And also there became genuine trust in that there's no downside for me to make that connection. And by doing it, at some point, it's going to come back to me, whether it's karma, the energy of the earth, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as I keep putting it out positively, at some point, it's going to come back to me. Just like it did with this post this week, and I'm getting a $8,000 piece of technology to try out.
Yeah. Well, and so I was thinking about a couple of different tracks that I wanted to understand better. One was how having this disease has impacted the direction you took business wise, because as an entrepreneur, as somebody who has been in the tech space and all of this, you're still thinking about ways to develop, but it's changed the direction in which you're looking at developing and the direction that you're interested in developing your business and the opportunities that you see and the needs that are out there. The other thing I was interested in understanding is about the impact of this disease on you and what you understand about it in your life, practically and emotionally. You thought about it because it's progressive and it's something that it's not like something that happened overnight. It's something that you're going on year 6 of dealing with it.
Year 5 will be, since the diagnosis, April will be year 5.
Yeah.
First symptoms started in 2018.
Wow. Yeah. So you're going into just years of this and the progression of it, which it's like, I imagine that there's been this sort of evolution of understanding. And like you were talking about grief before, it's like, what does that look like? The grief of the life that you expected and the grief of the use of a limb or the use of a hand or something. So I thought I could probably talk to Mark all day long about this, about things going sideways, and we would never run out of things to talk about because that's kind of the way it is. You're literally dealing with this on a daily basis, right? And not sure of how it's going to show up. And yet, some of the most interesting new developments on what you're looking at, problems you're trying to solve, new discoveries that you're making, they just keep coming, right? Some of the most interesting ones are coming your way.
Yeah, but don't tell anybody why. I'll tell you, but don't tell anyone.
I can't promise.
This process of me starting to bring ideas together was twofold. One is I bought into the fact that I'm a connector, and I'm really good connecting different ideas. So I don't know that I'm creating new ideas. I think I'm bringing ideas together, not unlike the Chinese logistical system for creating a trusted network of service providers. So it's a very different thing. And you know what I'm talking about because I shared that idea with you. But it's not a new idea. It's two ideas coming together and what comes out of that. And I started doing that. I'm working on a training module for sales, while sales will be the main coaching area. It's really turning into a leadership book on leadership of organizations with sales as a component. And you're wondering, well, where did you have time for all these ideas? I really don't. And this is why it came up. I have to find a way to replace myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't replace myself, there's going to be a point where I don't have a choice as to whether or not I keep working. I don't have a choice as to whether or not I keep going, but I do have a choice as to whether or not the thing we're building, which was intended to provide ongoing beyond me, keeps going.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff is really, how do I replace myself and how do I package my thought pillars or my principles? And it also ties into the fact that I believe I'm in the legacy portion of my career. So how do I create my legacy and keep things ongoing? The short answer is I think I'm just being selfish.
I mean, a lot of people, I think that When the word legacy comes up, they don't have a countdown clock that's next to them health wise that's saying today you still have the ability to use your hands or whatever, And when you use the word legacy and you have ALS, it's very different than when somebody over here is saying, it's a legacy project and they don't have that's sort of hanging out there in the periphery or in the immediate that they're dealing with.
They do, but they're not good at doing one thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not setting the goal. One way you can get rid of the things that aren't important is to prioritize them and then say what you want to do. And if you're out there and you're fully able and you want to do the legacy routine, I'm trying to enhance my legacy. Well, determine what that is to enhance it, set a timeline to it, and do it.
Yeah.
Worst case is you hit your goal and you're still fully functional, so you can set a new one, or you can go travel, or you can drink mimosas in the morning. I don't care, but you get to decide again what the next thing is once it's complete. When you don't complete it, it's mental masturbation. It feels good, but doesn't produce anything.
So what are your priorities when it comes to legacy now?
Number one, to build very finite. And I don't want to get too business in the weeds, but to build recurring revenue to a level where my wife, if she wanted to sell the company, could sell it at a multiple to not have to work any longer. That doesn't mean be rich. It means retire.
Yeah.
Because my wife is most likely going to live much longer than me. And while the medical expenses will go down, the living expenses will stay the same, and she needs that. Legacy is, for me, is that when people say my name in the association space, which has been so good to me, that it's, oh, that Mark, he took care of us, not, oh, that Mark, he sold us a piece of crap and we're stuck with it. Which you hear a lot in that space. All this legacy technology that they're holding on to because they can't afford to get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. You knew that story very well.
Right. When it comes to relationships, where it says that Mark was there for me, he cared about me, and this is how he showed it. I think if I could pass on some of those, how I showed it, so they lived on, that's another way of me having a legacy. I have a daughter that has a pizza night with her kid, with my grandkids, because we had pizza night. I know what she does around the holidays is what I used to do with them around the holidays. So that's really passing it on. So if people are accepting your ideas, using your behaviors, moving on, you've created a legacy. And then you've got to decide what behaviors, positive or negative, you want them to pass on. Because you can also create a legacy of, hey, Mark gets really frustrated when he can't do something and he tears into everyone around him in those moments because it's not public facing.
Yeah.
That's not a legacy I want to pass on, so I need to work on it.
Yeah. It's hard though, because it's also, you got to give yourself a little bit of grace. You're going through a hard time. Any human, you would do the same for somebody else, I think, going through a hard time that's trying to do the best they can. And it's got to get frustrating at some point.
But frustration doesn't mean you lash out. Frustration can mean articulate the frustration. While it's hard on me, it's also hard for the people around me to see me go through all this. I mean, my wife is my primary caregiver. She dresses me, she showers me, she feeds me, she takes me to the bathroom, she uses a Hoyer lift to get me out of a chair onto a commode. Oh, and by the way, she works full time.
Yeah, that's wild. It's so hard to do.
So we're both going through it, So me lashing out at her, I've got to find a way, even though I'm frustrated, to say thank you as opposed to.
So I want to go back because we've talked about a lot of this. Was there a moment, and you mentioned earlier when you first had symptoms, what was the first moment that you really realized that things were going sideways? Was it a single moment or was it something that grew over time?
A couple. August of 2018, I was 57. I was walking out of Whole Foods with a 2.5 gallon jug in my right arm, and I went to put it in my trunk, and my right arm was a little weak. Now, anybody that knows me in the last 10 years does know that round is a shape, and I'm of that shape. I'm a little overweight. I was getting older. Everything hurt. When I would get up, I would groan, just like any baby boomer. And so I just figured, I'm a little out of shape. 2 weeks later, I was up in Cape Cod visiting my mother and her wife, and we were at a baseball game. They have a wooden bat league for college prospects. And there was a foul ball. I looked up, and my neck snapped, and flames went down both of my arms. Now, I mean flames by the sensation. I didn't instantly combust. I got up to figure out where the pain was, and basically I had cracked my neck. I had had a neck surgery many years prior, and it kind of gave out. So I cracked my neck. So I did have a spinal cord injury. Then I had a surgery, and my arm weakness went away as well as the pain, and then it started coming back. So they thought maybe they didn't get it all, and I had another surgery, which now in hindsight is unnecessary. And also a lot of people with ALS go through procedures that they shouldn't because they're misdiagnosed. So, and there's no fault. I don't have any blame here, but I had another surgery on my neck. And then ultimately I lost the right arm. So 2019, the right arm stopped working entirely. I learned to do everything left-handed, even though I was right-handed, my right side dominant. I mean, I would make puff pastry, I'd roll pasta one-handed, Yes, I did, and if my hands worked, could still make puff pastry from scratch and pasta from scratch. But I just said, that's it. I've lost my right arm. It's a spinal cord injury. March of 2021, as I was eating, my left hand was having trouble finding my mouth with the fork. And so we went to a neurologist who referred me to an ALS specialist. And April 21st of 2021, I was diagnosed with ALS.
Wow.
So the question was, when did things go sideways? First, it went sideways. I lost the use of my right arm. End of the world? No. Frustrating? Yes. But I was still independent. When I was diagnosed with ALS, she told me that day you shouldn't drive anymore, so I stopped driving.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever ask a doctor if you have a terminal disease, how long do you have to live, because they'll tell you.
Oh, it's like, don't ask the questions if you don't want to know the answer, right?
She told me, well, most people live 2 to 5 years, but yours is slower than others, so probably 6 to 9 years. Which is nice, but now I'm into the 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
2 to 4, 1 to 4 years range. But still, I'm going slower. And that's when I realized my life completely changed and went real sideways. It also made me realize that all the promises I had made and said I can do it next year didn't necessarily have a next year to do.
Wow, yeah.
So what those promises included was I'd always promised to upgrade my wife's diamond and engagement ring because when we got engaged, I was broke. And I would always do it next year. So I did that. I'd always promised to take my Peruvian wife who had never been to Machu Picchu. So we went. I always promised that she'd see Rome. So we went. We did all these things. And interestingly enough, it was really cheap because it was 2021 and it was still just post-pandemic. And so unfortunately, a couple things I haven't done, and travel's just getting really too hard for her, not for me, because I just sit there and you drag me around. But for her, she's got some PTSD. It's not easy to travel when you got to bring a Hoyer lift with you
All the
and
stuff.
different things. But we just started doing those things because I knew everything was going sideways. And I'm glad we did, because if we had kept putting it off till next year, and then I decided, well, because we spent a bunch of money, we got to go make some money. What am I capable of doing? And I relied on a relationship that I've had since 2009 with regards to being my dev team. I helped my partner start a dev team in 2009, and he grew it to over 200 people. So we partnered up for the association space, and we're doing that. But we also send videos with numerous expletives to motivate people in the morning because we care about them, and going sideways, it's never going to go straight. Just like your stock portfolio never goes straight up.
Yeah.
It's going to go a little sideways sometimes. It's going to go in reverse, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. Somewhere in there, I think we gained a step. Who knows? But
It's like, I feel like we're dancing. This sounds more like the cha-cha than anything, right?
right. I wish I could. I knew it went sideways when I got the diagnosis. And that's when I decided it could take my life or it could be my constant battle. And I've chosen it to be the battle. And quite frankly, doctors have tests and they tell me specifically for me, my progression is slower because of my attitude, that I don't give in. And if you give in, depression manifests to physicality. If you give in, you'll be overtaken. And that doesn't have to be a terminal disease.
Yeah.
It can be the project you're working on. It can be the startup you're trying to start up and everyone's telling you it's going to be too hard and you can't do it. It can be whatever you decide. But if you put your mind to it, set the goal, identify what success means, then you can do it.
It's a great segue, because one of my questions for you is, how do you define success? Like, what does winning mean now? And you just shared what that can look like. You at least were talking about something that I think is so important, which I myself sometimes get caught up in this thing where it's like, gosh, I'm tired. I feel bad for myself. Things are not going my way. I just feel lack of motivation. It's weird. I think of myself as being quite the self-starter, have mostly been that way. But there are times where I found myself feeling sorry for myself. And I think that for those people that are out there that they're maybe listening to this and they are laying on their sides and they're staring at the wall, and maybe this is the most that they've been able to do all day because they don't feel motivated and they don't feel successful and they don't feel like there's a ton of hope. What is one of the things that you tell yourself to get out of a funk when you catch yourself doing it? Because surely there's something that works for Mark that is pretty exceptional when you run into these frustrations and these moments when it could get someone down. It's totally understandable why.
One is my goals are more important than feeling sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And two is it's okay. Don't tell anybody this. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself and stare at the wall. As long as when you're doing it, you're saying, hey, I don't think I can do it today. So what do I need to do to take care of myself today that'll put me in a position to pick up again tomorrow, to get back to that goal tomorrow? What could I do for me today that, while if I try to do that thing I'm highly motivated on today, I'll do a lousy job. I'm not there. I can't function. But what do I need to do today to make it so tomorrow I could at least function a little bit?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
you do it. And it might be watch a movie, it might be read a book, it might be drink mimosas on the beach. I don't care. But but give yourself permission to have those breaks with the knowledge that this is your reward for committing to going back to the project.
Yeah. Give yourself a little grace. I like that. First, my goals are more important than feeling sorry for myself. But oh, by the way, it's okay to feel sorry for yourself sometimes. Just what is it going to take to get to the point where you can come back to this other stuff that you've got going on? I love that. Mark, you have shared already so many different things that I think are valuable for people to take with them. But what is something that you've learned through all of this that you wish everyone would come to understand?
Diaphragm Care once told me, she's with Fusion Strand, she once told me, well, Mark, you have a reputation for doing everything by yourself. And through this, I realized I can't do everything by myself. So I can tell people what I want. And if I apply some of my business philosophy to personal relationships, I'll probably be better. My business philosophy is it's my job as the leader to set the mission and the goals, but the people that are going to do the work decide how it's going to get done. And if I could let go a little bit of the how it gets done in my personal life, because people aren't going to do it the way I do it. And quite frankly, if they're doing it wrong, it's probably because I didn't articulate it well enough to give them the vision and the goals. So what I think I've come away with is that I can't do everything, and it's okay to let others do it. And it's okay to let them make mistakes because we can probably fix all the mistakes. And who knows, if I let others do it, I might find something new and grow from it.
It's so good. I want to thank you for talking with me today, as always, and for being so generous with your time and your thought leadership. I don't think I've ever asked you for an article or to participate in something where you didn't say yes. And everybody likes to hear yes. So, I really appreciate that because I know how important that time means to you. And I feel honored that you take the time to spend this with me, to share your thoughts, and to continue to be my friend, too.
I'm honored to be your friend, and I'm also very appreciative that you think what I have to say is worth listening to. So it's nice to have a forum to share. I tell my staff this all the time that, we need to listen and hear what their goals are. And quite frankly, if you spend time in a conversation and all you do is listen, the people will walk away and go, what a nice person that guy was.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to do a better job of not interrupting, but I try really hard. I think I try to listen. I feel like I just get so curious. Sometimes I have to interrupt and ask questions.
Oh,
So,
you don't interrupt. You're great.
well,
You're
that's
great.
good.
I mean, you should be doing, this is what you were meant to do.
I love talking to people and finding out more and really being privy to some of the gold that is there. And so I do have one more thing. Okay. I get to do this because I'm the host of the show. I texted you this, my old podcast that I did for years, Association Chat. I'd always close out the same way because I love that quote. And it's the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, which I believe very seriously. I think that a lot of times the things that we're afraid to look into oftentimes holds the gold. It holds the things that would help us the most. And so I wanted to ask you this question. I didn't give you very much time to think about it. And so you don't have to. You can just be like, KiKi, you're wacky and we've done well with this. So let's just keep moving. But my question would be for you, what has the cave been and what unexpected treasure has shown up inside it?
For me, the cave has been accepting others' generosity. I'm one that accepts things by saying, oh, no, you shouldn't have, or no, I couldn't accept that, and things like that. But the real treasure has come from seeing the gifts that others give to me of their time, their energy, their care, and me learning how to be a better receiver of gifts.
That's good. It's hard. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And you are wacky, and I'm done with that question.
I'm going to close this out by saying this. If you're listening and you want to share your own Things Go Sideways story, the link will be in the show notes. And if you want to find out more about Things Go Sideways, follow some of the behind the scenes reflections, you can also subscribe to the newsletter. That will also be in the show notes. And I'm going to leave you with this. Optimism isn't denial. It's earned through adaptation.